I wasn't supposed to find it. It was buried where no one looks, folded so carefully, like someone was afraid the truth might escape if it opened too easily. My hands were shaking before I even read the first line. And then I saw his name. Not just mentioned, exposed. Everything I believed about my father started falling apart in seconds. The kind of truth that doesn't just hurt, it rewrites your entire life. My grandma kept this hidden for 60 years. But why? And more importantly, what was she protecting me from? I wasn't looking for anything. That's the part that keeps replaying in my head, because if I had been searching, if I had even suspected, maybe I could have prepared myself for what I was about to find. But I wasn't. I was just cleaning. The house had been quiet since the funeral. Too quiet. The kind of silence that presses against your ears until you start hearing things that aren't there. Floorboards shifting. A clock that stopped ticking years ago. Or maybe it never stopped. I remember standing in her room, holding a stack of old sweaters that still smelled like her. Lavender. Always lavender. My hands froze for a second. I almost walked out. Almost. But then I saw it. The drawer. It didn't sit right. You know how you can just feel when something's off? Like your brain notices it before you do. It wasn't open. It wasn't broken. Just slightly uneven. I stared at it longer than I should have. Don't, I whispered to myself. But I stepped closer anyway. The wood creaked as I pulled it open. Inside, nothing unusual. Old papers, faded photos, a pair of glasses she hadn't worn in years. I almost laughed at myself. See? Nothing. I pushed it back in. It stopped halfway. That's when my chest tightened. I pulled it out again. Slower this time. Careful. My fingers ran along the inside edge, and then I felt it. A ridge. Too straight to be accidental. No way. I pressed it. Nothing. I pushed harder. Still nothing. Then I slid my hand underneath the drawer, feeling along the bottom panel, and there it was. A small latch. Hidden so perfectly you'd never notice unless you were looking for it. Or unless you weren't supposed to find it. I hesitated. My heart was already beating too fast. For what? An old drawer? A hidden compartment? Just open it, I muttered. But my hand didn't move. Because something didn't feel right. It wasn't curiosity anymore. It was fear. The kind you don't understand. The kind that shows up before the reason does. I swallowed hard and pressed the latch. A soft click. The bottom panel shifted. And just like that, it was open. Inside there was only one thing. A letter. Folded. Neat. Precise. Intentional. Not old and crumpled like everything else in the house. Preserved. Like it mattered. Like it was waiting. I stared at it for a long time. Too long. My fingers hovered above it, but I couldn't bring myself to touch it. Why hide this? I whispered. No answer. Just silence. That same heavy, suffocating silence. Finally, I picked it up. It felt wrong. Not physically. But the weight of it, what it meant, I could feel it before I even opened it. My name wasn't on it. That was the first thing I noticed. It wasn't addressed to anyone. No envelope. No stamp. Just folded paper. I turned it over. Nothing. No markings. No clues. Then why keep it? I said under my breath. My hands were already shaking. I didn't realize it until I tried to unfold it, and the paper slipped slightly between my fingers. I tightened my grip. Careful. Slow. Like if I rushed it, something bad would happen. The first crease opened. Then the second. And then I saw the handwriting. Her handwriting. There was no doubt. I'd seen it 1,000 times. Birthday cards. Notes on the fridge. Little reminders she'd leave around the house. But this wasn't the same. It was tighter. More controlled. Like every word had been forced onto the page. Like she didn't want to write it, but knew she had to. My eyes moved to the first line. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath. Then I read it. And everything stopped. If you're reading this, then I failed. My throat went dry. Failed? Failed at what? My eyes scanned the next line faster now. I never wanted you to know the truth about your father. My heart dropped. No. No, no, no. I shook my head immediately. This is stupid, I said out loud. This doesn't mean anything. But my voice didn't sound convincing. Not even to me. I kept reading. I couldn't stop. You deserve to know, but it will break you. My chest tightened so hard it actually hurt. Break me? What was she talking about? This didn't make sense. None of it did. My dad. No. No, this was wrong. This had to be wrong. I flipped the page slightly, scanning ahead, desperate for something that would explain it, something that would make this all feel like a misunderstanding. And then I saw his name. Not casually written. Not mentioned. Placed. Deliberately. Like a confession. Like evidence. And right next to it, a word I never thought I'd see. I froze. My hands went completely still. My brain tried to reject it instantly, like it was a mistake, like I'd read it wrong, but the word didn't change. It didn't move. It just sat there. Heavy. Permanent. Real. My father wasn't who I thought he was. I stumbled back slightly, the letter still in my hand. This isn't real, I whispered. But it was. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to stop. To fold it back up. To put it exactly where I found it and pretend none of this ever happened. And for a second, I almost did. Because if I didn't read it, then none of it had to be true. Right? But my eyes dropped back to the page. To that word. To his name. And then a thought hit me so hard it made my stomach turn. She hid this. For 60 years. Not days. Not months. 60 years. That's not fear. That's not hesitation. That's a decision. A choice. Which means, whatever was written in this letter was never meant to be found. I slowly looked back down at the page. My hands trembling again. And this time, I kept reading. I shouldn't have kept reading. That's the first thought that hit me. Not confusion. Not shock. Regret. The kind that comes too late, right after you cross a line you can't uncross. My eyes were still locked on the page, but the words had stopped making sense. They were there, clear as anything, but my brain refused to process them. No, I whispered. It came out automatically. Like if I said it enough times it would rewrite what I had just seen. No, this isn't. My voice faded. Because it didn't matter what I said. The letter didn't change. His name was still there. That word was still there. I forced my eyes back to the beginning. Maybe I'd missed something. Maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe. If you're reading this, then I failed. My chest tightened again. Failed. That word hit differently now. Not vague anymore. Specific. Heavy. Intentional. I never wanted you to know the truth about your father. I exhaled slowly, but it didn't calm anything. It just made the silence louder. Truth. What truth? My grip on the paper tightened. This is stupid, I muttered. She was old. Maybe she was confused. But even as I said it, something inside me pushed back. Because she wasn't confused. Not my grandma. She forgot where she left her glasses sometimes, sure. Repeated stories. Mixed up dates. But this? This wasn't confusion. This was careful. Every word placed exactly where it needed to be. No hesitation. No corrections. This was written by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. And that scared me more than anything. I skipped ahead again. I couldn't help it. My eyes searched for something, anything that would make this make sense. A reason. An explanation. Instead, I found a date. I froze. No. That date. That didn't line up. I stared at it, my mind racing now, trying to piece it together. That's not possible. I said it louder this time. Because it wasn't. It couldn't be. That date was years before. Before what I'd always been told. Before the story I'd grown up believing. Before my father was even supposed to be where he said he was. I shook my head again, harder this time. No. No, that's wrong. I flipped back, scanning faster now. Looking for anything that would fix this. But every line I read only made it worse. You must never ask him about this. My stomach dropped. Ask him? Ask him what? What did you do? I whispered like he could hear me. Like he was standing in the room. But he wasn't. And suddenly that felt strange. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't know where he was. Not really. Not in the way that mattered. I stepped back, my shoulder hitting the edge of the dresser. The impact snapped me out of it for a second. I looked around the room. Everything was the same. The bed. The curtains. The faint smell of lavender still hanging in the air. Nothing had changed. And yet, everything had. I looked back down at the letter. My hands were shaking again. Worse now. Because it wasn't just confusion anymore. It was recognition. Little things, small things were starting to surface. Memories I hadn't thought about in years. Things that never made sense. Things I ignored. I swallowed hard. No. But it was already happening. I couldn't stop it. I saw him standing in the doorway one night, thinking I was asleep. Just standing there. Watching. Not saying anything. Not moving. At the time I thought it was normal. Fathers check on their kids, right? But now it felt different. Wrong. I flipped the page again. Faster this time. I didn't care about being careful anymore. I needed answers. I tried to protect you. My chest tightened again. Protect me from what? From him? No. That didn't make sense. I stopped. Because another memory hit me. Harder this time. Sharper. I was younger. Maybe 8. 9. We were in the car. I don't even remember where we were going. But I remember asking him something. A simple question. Something about where he grew up. And he didn't answer. Not right away. He just stared at the road. Too long. Long enough that I noticed. Dad? I remember saying. And then he smiled. Just like that. Like a switch. Oh, just a small town, he said. Casual. Easy. Normal. And I never questioned it again. Why would I? He was my father. But now. That pause. That hesitation. It didn't feel small anymore. It felt like a crack. And suddenly, there were more. Too many. Moments where he avoided questions. Changed subjects. Got quiet for no reason. I staggered back another step, the letter still open in my hand. This doesn't mean anything, I said again. But my voice was weaker now. Because deep down, I knew it did. I looked back at the date. That date. It kept pulling me in. Because if that date was real, then everything I thought I knew was built on something false. And that's when the thought hit me. Not slowly. Not gently. It slammed into me. What if? I stopped. I didn't want to finish it. I couldn't. But it didn't matter. The idea was already there. Clear. Unavoidable. What if he lied? Not about something small. Not about where he grew up. But about everything. I looked down at the letter again. My hands were trembling so badly now I had to grip the edge of the paper just to keep it steady. You must never ask him. The words echoed in my head. Over and over. Why? Why would she write that? Unless asking him would confirm it. My chest tightened again. I took a slow step forward. Then another. Back toward the dresser. Back toward where I found it. Like maybe if I put it back. If I closed the drawer. If I just walked away. None of this would follow me. But I didn't stop. I looked down at the letter one more time. At his name. At that word. And this time, I didn't try to deny it. Because something inside me had already shifted. Something quiet. But permanent. I swallowed hard. And whispered. What did you do? I didn't read the letter again. Not right away. I folded it slowly, carefully, like I was afraid it might fall apart if I handled it the wrong way. Or worse, like the truth inside it might somehow spill out into the room if I didn't contain it. I placed it on the dresser. Stepped back. And just stood there. Because suddenly, I didn't know what to do with my own thoughts. I closed my eyes. And he was there. Not the version from the letter. The version I knew. The one I grew up with. The one who taught me how to ride a bike. I could see it clearly, his hand gripping the back of the seat, running beside me, breath heavy, laughing. Don't look back, he shouted. I'm not. I yelled even though I was. And then, he let go. I wobbled. Panicked. Don't let go. I've got you, he said. But when I turned, he wasn't holding on anymore. He was standing there, smiling. Watching me. And I didn't fall. I kept going. That memory hit me so hard I had to grab the edge of the dresser to steady myself. That's real, I whispered. That's real. It had to be. That wasn't a lie. That wasn't fake. That was him. Wasn't it? I opened my eyes again. The room felt smaller now. Tighter. Like the walls had moved in while I wasn't looking. I shook my head, trying to push the letter out of my mind. This doesn't change anything, I said. But even as I said it, something shifted. Because now, every memory came with a question attached to it. I saw him again, this time at the kitchen table. Late at night. Lights off except for the one above the stove. He was sitting there alone. Just staring at nothing. I remember walking in, half asleep. Dad? He flinched. Actually flinched. Like I'd scared him. Hey, he said quickly, straightening up. What are you doing up? I was thirsty. He nodded. Too fast. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. I grabbed a glass, filled it with water, and turned back toward him. He was watching me. Not in a normal way. Not like a parent checking on their kid. Something else. Something I didn't understand at the time. What? I asked. Nothing, he said immediately. Then he smiled. That same easy smile. The one that always ended the moment. And I walked away. I always walked away. I pressed my fingers against my temples. Stop, I muttered. But it wouldn't stop. Because now the memories weren't just memories anymore. They were clues. Pieces. And they didn't fit the way they used to. I picked up the letter again. I didn't open it. Just held it. Like it might anchor me somehow. You deserve to know, but it will break you. Her words echoed again. Break me. I let out a quiet laugh. Too late. But it wasn't funny. Not even close. Because the breaking wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Slow. Like something inside me was being pulled apart thread by thread. I leaned back against the wall and slid down until I was sitting on the floor. The letter still in my hand. And then, another memory surfaced. This one sharper. Clearer. We were at a family gathering. Loud. Crowded. People talking over each other. Laughter. Normal. I was maybe 12. Standing near the doorway watching him. He wasn't talking. Not really. He was there, physically, but distant. Like he didn't belong in the room. Someone clapped him on the shoulder. Man, you've changed, they said, laughing. He smiled. Yeah, I guess I have. But it didn't reach his eyes. I remember noticing that. Even then. And then. The question. It came out casually. Too casually. So, where'd you say you were before all this? I watched him. Waiting. Because something in me, something small, wanted to hear the answer. He paused. Just for a second. But it was enough. Long enough that the other person noticed too. Everywhere, he said finally with a shrug. A joke. Everyone laughed. The moment passed. Just like that. But now that pause felt different. Heavy. Deliberate. Like he'd chosen that answer carefully. Like the truth wasn't something he could just say out loud. I exhaled slowly. My grip on the letter tightened again. How much of it was real? I whispered. The question hung in the air. No answer. Just silence. I looked back down at the folded paper. At the edges worn slightly from time. 60 years. She kept this for 60 years. Which meant she knew him before I ever did. Before I was born. Before any of my memories existed. And whatever she knew, it was enough to write this. Enough to hide it. Enough to never say a word. My chest tightened again. Because suddenly, I wasn't the one with the answers. I wasn't even asking the right questions. I looked back at the dresser. At the hidden compartment. And for the first time, I realized something that made my stomach turn. This wasn't just a letter. It was a warning. I slowly stood up, my legs unsteady. The room felt different now. Not smaller. Not tighter. Just wrong. Like I was standing in a place I didn't fully understand anymore. I looked around again. At everything. At the life I thought I knew. And then I said it. Quiet. Barely above a whisper. Who are you? But I wasn't talking about him anymore. Not just him. I was talking about everything. Everything that led here. Everything that built this version of my life. Because if he wasn't who I thought he was, then what does that make me? The question settled deep. Uncomfortable. Unanswered. And it didn't go away. It just stayed there. Waiting. I looked at the letter again, then at the drawer. Still open. Still exposed. Like something that had been sealed for decades had finally decided it was done hiding. And suddenly I couldn't stop thinking about her. Not the version everyone else saw. Not the soft voice, the gentle hands, the quiet smiles. No. I was thinking about the moments that never quite fit. The ones I ignored. The ones that didn't matter until now. I walked back to the bed and sat down slowly, the mattress sinking under my weight. The room felt heavier. Like it remembered something I didn't. She knew, I whispered. Not guessed. Not suspected. Knew. The word sat there solid. Unmovable. And once it settled in, everything about her started to shift. I saw her standing in the kitchen again years ago. I must have been 10. Maybe younger. She was washing dishes, slow, methodical. I remember walking in, holding something, probably a toy, asking a question I don't even remember now. But I remember what I said next. Why does Dad never talk about when he was young? She froze. Not completely. Just enough that you'd miss it if you weren't looking. But I saw it. Even back then I saw it. The sponge stopped moving. Just for a second. Then she kept going. Oh, some people don't like talking about the past, she said. Calm. Too calm. Why? I asked. Because kids don't let things go that easily. She turned the water off. Slowly. Then dried her hands. Still not looking at me. Because sometimes, she said quietly, the past is better left where it is. And that was it. Conversation over. No explanation. No follow-up. Just a wall. I remember standing there, confused. But I didn't push. I never pushed. None of us did. And now I understood why. I pressed my fingers against my lips, thinking. That wasn't avoidance, I muttered. That was control. She didn't just avoid the truth. She managed it. Carefully. Deliberately. For years. I looked back at the letter in my hand. You deserve to know. Her words felt different now. Not like a confession. More like a calculation. Like she weighed something. Measured it. And decided. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I stood up again, pacing now. Slow steps across the room. Trying to piece it together. If she knew. And she hid it. Then this wasn't just about him. This was about her too. Her choices. Her silence. Her decision to let me grow up believing something that wasn't true. My chest tightened. Why? I said out loud. Not angry. Not yet. Just confused. Because she loved me. I knew that. I felt that. That part was real. It had to be. So how do you love someone? And still lie to them every single day? I stopped walking. Because another memory surfaced. This one quieter. More subtle. I was older. Maybe 16. We were sitting together in the living room. TV on, low volume. Neither of us really watching. I remember asking her something about him again. Not directly. Just casually. Did Dad always live here? She didn't answer right away. She just kept looking at the screen. Then she said. Yes. Simple. Flat. Final. No hesitation this time. No pause. Just an answer. And I believed her. Of course I did. Why wouldn't I? She was the one person who never felt uncertain. Never felt inconsistent. She was steady. Reliable. Safe. But now. That answer felt wrong. Too clean. Too easy. Like it had been practiced. I let out a slow breath. How many times? I whispered. How many times did she do that? How many questions did she redirect? How many answers did she reshape just enough to keep me from digging deeper? I walked back to the dresser. The hidden compartment still open. Empty now. Except it wasn't. Because the absence of the letter felt louder than its presence ever did. She put it there. Not destroyed. Not thrown away. Hidden. That's not fear. That's intention. Which means she expected it might be found. One day. Just not too soon. I picked up the letter again. Unfolded it slightly. Not fully. Just enough to see the top lines. If you're reading this, then I failed. Failed. The word echoed again. But this time, it meant something else. She didn't fail to hide it. She succeeded. For 60 years. She failed to keep it hidden forever. Which means, this wasn't about protecting herself. It was about timing. About control. About deciding when the truth would come out. And more importantly, when it wouldn't. My grip tightened on the paper. You planned this, I said quietly. The realization hit slow, but hard. This wasn't a secret buried in panic. This was a secret preserved. Maintained. Protected. And that made it worse. Because it meant every normal day I had, every memory, every moment where I thought everything was fine, was built on something she knew wasn't true. I felt something shift inside my chest. Not break. Not yet. But harden. Because this wasn't just about him anymore. This was about her choosing silence. Over and over again. I looked around the room one more time. At the bed. The dresser. The quiet. And for the first time, it didn't feel like her room anymore. It felt like a place where something had been kept hidden for too long. I exhaled slowly. Then looked back down at the letter. This time, I didn't hesitate. I unfolded it completely. My eyes moving past the opening lines. Past the warnings. Deeper. Because if she controlled the truth, then this was the part she couldn't control anymore. And whatever came next was the reason she stayed silent all those years. My heart started pounding again. Not from fear. Not exactly. From something sharper. Something more focused. I swallowed hard. And began to read. I didn't rush this time. Not because I wasn't desperate. Because I was. But something in me understood, once I read it, there was no going back. So I slowed down. Every word mattered now. Every line deliberate. I unfolded the page fully, flattening it against the dresser with my palm. My fingers stayed there for a second. Like I was holding it in place. Or maybe, holding myself together. Then I started reading. You always looked at him with trust. My jaw tightened. Past tense. Always. Not do. Did. I kept going. And that's why I stayed silent. A sharp breath escaped my chest. Silent. Not confused. Not unsure. Silent. Chosen. I told myself it was for you. That some truths only destroy what they touch. I shook my head slowly. No. But my eyes didn't leave the page. Because even as I resisted it, I needed it. I needed to know. I met him before any of you knew his name. I froze. Before any of you? That didn't make sense. That meant before my mother. Before the life I thought he stepped into. Before everything. My heartbeat picked up again. Faster now. More controlled but heavier. I read the next line. He wasn't the man he became in this house. Something cold slid down my spine. Wasn't the man he became. So he changed? Or pretended to? I swallowed hard. My eyes moved faster now. I couldn't slow them anymore. Not after that. He came here with nothing and with everything to hide. I let out a quiet, shaky breath. Hide. There it was again. That word. Like a thread running through every line. Pulling everything tighter. I gripped the edge of the dresser. What did you hide? I whispered. But the answer was already waiting. Right there. On the page. I should have told your mother. My chest tightened instantly. Should have. Didn't. I tried more than once. But every time I saw you I stopped. I closed my eyes for a second. Just a second. Because that part hit differently. Not calculated. Not cold. That sounded like conflict. Like she almost broke. Almost told the truth. But didn't. Because of me. I opened my eyes again. And kept reading. He made me promise. My breath caught. Promise? What kind of promise? I made a mistake. My stomach dropped. Not hesitation. Not doubt. A mistake. Clear. Final. I leaned closer to the page. Like getting physically closer would somehow make it easier to understand. It didn't. It made it worse. Because I believed him when he said it was over. Over? What was over? My mind started racing again. Faster now. Trying to connect pieces that didn't fit. Trying to build something that made sense. But every line just broke it further. I believed he left that life behind. That life. My chest tightened hard. That life. Not a mistake. Not a moment. A life. A whole life. Separate. Hidden. Gone. Or so she thought. I shook my head again. No, this is. But I couldn't even finish the sentence. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't confusion. This wasn't exaggeration. This was controlled. Measured. Real. I kept reading. Slower now. Because I didn't want to miss anything. Not anymore. You were too young to understand. And then you were too happy for me to destroy it. My throat tightened. Happy. She saw me. Every day. Every normal moment. Every time I laughed, trusted, believed. She saw it. And chose silence. Again. And again. And again. I exhaled slowly. But it didn't release anything. It just made room for more. My eyes dropped to the next line. And that's where everything shifted. Because this time, there was no hint. No build-up. No softening. Just truth. Direct. Cold. Unavoidable. The man you call your father. My fingers tightened on the paper. Was never meant to be in your life. I froze. Completely. The words didn't move. Didn't change. They just stayed there. Permanent. Heavy. Final. What? I whispered. But my voice barely came out. Because my brain didn't know what to do with that. Never meant to be in your life? That's not a mistake. That's not confusion. That's something else. Something bigger. Something intentional. I scanned the next lines faster now. Desperate. Almost panicked. I don't know what he told you. I don't know what version of himself he gave you. Version. Not truth. Version. My chest felt tight again. Too tight. Like I couldn't get a full breath. But I know what he was before. Before. There it was. The past. The part no one talked about. The part she warned me about. The part she buried. And now. It was right in front of me. I leaned closer again. Eyes locked on the page. Because whatever came next. This was it. This was the line she spent 60 years protecting. And then. I saw it. Not a sentence. Not a paragraph. A name. Not his. Someone else's. Written clearly. Deliberately. Followed by a place. And a single line underneath it. If you want the truth, find him. My heart dropped straight into my stomach. Find him? Find who? Why him? I stared at the name again. It didn't mean anything to me. No recognition. No memory. Just a stranger. But somehow, that stranger knew everything. Or at least, more than I did. I slowly lowered the letter. My hands shaking again. But this time, not from fear. From something else. Something sharper. More dangerous. Because now, this wasn't just a secret. It was a path. A direction. A way forward. And for the first time since I found the letter, I wasn't just reacting. I was thinking. If this is real, I said quietly, then he knows. I looked back at the name one more time, burning it into my mind. Because I already knew. There was no ignoring this. No putting it back. No pretending. Not anymore. I swallowed hard. And whispered. Who are you? But this time, I wasn't asking about my father. I was asking about the man I hadn't met yet. The one who held the rest of the truth. I didn't pack much. Just the letter. Folded. Refold. Then folded again like that might make it smaller, easier to carry. It didn't. It felt heavier the more I touched it. Like it knew where I was going. I stood in the doorway of the house for a long time before leaving. Keys in my hand. Bag at my feet. That quiet still wrapped around everything. The same silence that had been there since the funeral. But now it wasn't just empty. It felt like it was watching me leave. Just a name, I muttered. Like saying it out loud would shrink it. It doesn't mean anything yet. But I knew that wasn't true. Because I was already moving. Already stepping outside. Already locking the door behind me like I wasn't coming back the same person. The drive felt longer than it should have. Every turn too slow. Every stop too quiet. The letter sat on the passenger seat. I didn't touch it. But I kept glancing at it. Like it might change. Like the name might disappear if I looked away long enough. It didn't. It just sat there. Waiting. I pulled over once. Didn't even realize I had until the engine went quiet. I stared straight ahead. Hands gripping the wheel. This is insane, I said. No one just follows a letter. But my voice didn't carry any weight. Because I already knew. I wasn't following the letter. I was following the doubt. And that's harder to ignore. I started the car again. Didn't stop after that. The place wasn't what I expected. Not dramatic. Not hidden. Just ordinary. Which somehow made it worse. Because whatever truth was here, it didn't need to hide. I sat in the car for a minute. Watching the building. Trying to feel something clear. Fear. Anger. Anything solid. But all I felt was pressure. Like something was building behind my ribs. Waiting. I grabbed the letter. Unfolded just enough to see the name again. Then I said it out loud. Quiet. Testing it. It didn't feel real. Not yet. But it would. I stepped out of the car. The air felt different. Heavier. Or maybe that was just me. Each step toward the door felt deliberate. Too deliberate. Like I had to force my body forward. Because every instinct I had was pulling the other way. Walk in, I told myself. Just walk in. So I did. The door opened with a soft creak. Inside. Silence. Not the same kind as the house. This was different. Occupied. Controlled. I scanned the room. Nothing unusual. Nothing that screamed answers. Which meant I had to ask. And that's when it hit me. I didn't know how. I didn't know what to say. Hi. I found your name in a letter that might destroy my life. I let out a short breath. This is stupid. But I didn't leave. I couldn't. Because I was already here. Too far in to turn back. A voice broke the silence. Can I help you? I turned. And there he was. Not how I imagined. Not intimidating. Not mysterious. Just a man. Standing there. Looking at me like I was just another person who walked through the door. For a second. I almost believed that. Almost convinced myself this was nothing. A mistake. A coincidence. But then. I saw it. That flicker. Small. Fast. But real. His eyes shifted. Just slightly. Like something clicked. Like something recognized something else. Yeah, I said, my voice tighter than I expected. I'm looking for someone. He didn't respond right away. Just watched me. Carefully. Who? He asked. Simple. Neutral. But not relaxed. I swallowed. This was it. The line. Once I said it. There was no taking it back. I reached into my pocket. Pulled out the folded letter. Didn't open it. Didn't show it. Just held it. Like proof. Like weight. Then I said the name. Out loud. Clear. No hesitation. The room changed. Not physically. But I felt it. Like the air shifted. Like something invisible just locked into place. He didn't move. Didn't speak. But his face. His face gave it away. Recognition. Not confusion. Not curiosity. Recognition. My chest tightened instantly. You know him, I said. Not a question. A statement. Because I could see it. Clear as anything. He exhaled slowly. Long. Measured. Then looked at me again. Different this time. Not like a stranger. Not like a customer. Like I meant something. Where did you hear that name? He asked. His voice was calm. Too calm. Controlled. Just like the letter. Just like her. My grip tightened on the paper. I found it, I said. After my grandmother died. His eyes dropped slightly. Not to the letter. Not to my hands. Just down. Like he already knew. Like that confirmed something. Then he nodded. Slow. Almost to himself. Of course you did, he murmured. My heart skipped. What does that mean? I asked, sharper now. He didn't answer. Not right away. Just walked past me. Toward a chair. Sat down. Like he wasn't surprised. Like this. This moment. had already happened in his head 100 times. I turned to face him fully now. Every nerve in my body alert. Every thought narrowed to one point. Say something, I said. He looked up at me. And this time, there was no hesitation. No masking. No pretending. Just clarity. You shouldn't have come here. My stomach dropped. Why? I asked. But I already knew. I wasn't going to like the answer. He leaned back slightly, studying me. Not casually. Not kindly. Carefully. Like he was measuring something. Then he said it. Flat. Direct. Final. Because once you hear what I have to say. A pause. Just long enough to land. You don't get to go back to who you were before. My chest tightened hard. The words settled in. Heavy. Permanent. I took a step closer. Didn't even realize I had. Then don't hold back, I said. Because at this point, there was no version of me left to protect. He watched me for a second longer. Then nodded. Once. Like a decision had just been made. And in that moment, I knew. Whatever came next. This was it. The line I couldn't uncross. He didn't speak right away. Just sat there watching me. Like he was trying to decide how much I could handle. Or maybe, how much he was willing to say. I didn't move. Didn't look away. Because if I gave him even a second of doubt, he'd shut down. I could feel it. You said I shouldn't have come, I said, quieter now. Too late. His jaw tightened slightly. Not defensive. Not angry. Just resigned. Yeah, he said. It is. Silence stretched between us. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Then he leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. You look like him. The words hit harder than I expected. Not because of what they meant. Because of how he said it. Flat. No warmth. No nostalgia. Just observation. I swallowed. I am his son. He held my gaze. For a second. Then shook his head. Yeah, he said slowly. That's what he wanted. My chest tightened instantly. What does that mean? But he didn't answer directly. Of course he didn't. People like him never do. Instead he asked. What did your grandmother tell you? I let out a sharp breath. Nothing, I said. That's the problem. He nodded once. Like that confirmed something. Yeah, he murmured. Sounds like her. My grip tightened on the letter in my pocket. Then you tell me, I said. No hesitation now. No soft tone. I'm not leaving without answers. He looked at me again. Longer this time. Measuring. Weighing. Then he leaned back slightly. And for the first time, there was something different in his expression. Not reluctance. Not exactly. More like acceptance. All right, he said. And just like that, the air shifted again. Because now, it was coming. He wasn't always your father. My breath caught. The sentence landed hard. Too clean. Too direct. What does that mean? I asked immediately. But he ignored the question. Or maybe, he answered it in his own way. He had a name before the one you know. My stomach dropped. A name. Before. I felt my pulse in my ears now. Loud. Steady. Dangerous. You're saying he changed it? I asked. He gave a small shrug. People like him don't just change names, he said. They bury them. Bury? The word hit deep. Because suddenly, this wasn't about small lies. This was something else entirely. I took a step closer. I need you to stop talking in circles. My voice was sharper now. Controlled but barely. Just tell me what he did. He looked up at me again. And this time, there was no softness left. No hesitation. Just truth. He disappeared. I blinked. What? Gone, he said. One day he was there, the next nothing. People don't just disappear. He let out a short, humorless breath. They do when they have to. My chest tightened again. Have to? Why would he have to? I asked. But I already knew. I wasn't going to like the answer. He held my gaze. Didn't look away. Because staying would have gotten him killed. The words hit like a punch. Hard. Fast. Knocking the air out of me. What? My voice barely came out. But he didn't slow down. Didn't soften it. He was involved in things you don't just walk away from. My hands curled into fists. What things? Another pause. Short. Deliberate. Then. Things that follow you. My stomach turned. Because that wasn't past tense. That was still alive. Still moving. Still real. I shook my head again. No, you're wrong. But the denial felt weak now. Fragile. Because every piece he gave me, it fit. Too well. You said he had a different name, I said quickly. What was it? He didn't answer. Not right away. Just studied me again. Like he was deciding something. Then he said, "Does it matter?" My chest tightened. "Yes," I snapped. "It matters." "Why?" he asked calmly. "Because that's my father." The words came out louder than I expected. Sharp. Raw. And for a second, the room went completely still. He didn't react. Didn't flinch. Just watched me. And then, he said something that cut deeper than everything else. "Is he?" I froze. Completely. Because that question, that one question, did more damage than anything he'd said so far. "What?" I whispered. But I couldn't even finish it. Because my mind had already gone there. Back to the letter. Back to her words. "The man you call your father." My chest tightened painfully. I shook my head again. "No," I said quickly. Don't do that." But he didn't stop. "Do you even know where he came from?" he asked. I didn't answer. Because I didn't. Not really. "Do you know who he was before your family?" he continued. Still nothing. Because I had nothing. And he knew it. Of course he did. "That's what I thought," he said quietly. I felt something inside me crack. Not fully. But enough. Enough to feel it. Enough to know it was happening. "Then tell me," I said, my voice lower now. "Just tell me." He leaned back again. Exhaled slowly. Then finally, he gave me something real. A piece I couldn't ignore. He wasn't just running from something, he said. A pause. Heavy. Deliberate. He was running from someone. My stomach dropped again. Who? He didn't answer. Instead, he looked at me. Direct. Unblinking. And said, "The kind of people who don't forget." The word settled in. Cold. Final. And suddenly, this wasn't just about the past anymore. This wasn't just about secrets. This was something else. Something active. Something dangerous. I felt it in my chest. In my gut. That pressure again. But stronger now. Sharper. Because now, I wasn't just uncovering something. I was stepping into it. And whatever he left behind, whatever he tried to bury, it wasn't gone. It was waiting. I swallowed hard. My voice barely steady. "What are you not telling me?" He held my gaze. Long. Silent. Then finally, he spoke. And this time, there was no hesitation. "No," he said quietly. "You're asking the wrong question." My chest tightened. Then what's the right one? A pause. Just long enough to land. Then, why did he choose your family? Everything inside me stopped. Because that wasn't random. That wasn't chance. That was a decision. A choice. And suddenly, this story wasn't about who he was. It was about why he came to us. I didn't remember the drive back. Not clearly. Just fragments. The road. The steering wheel. My hands gripping it tighter than necessary. Everything else blurred. Because my mind wasn't on the road. It was stuck on one question. Why did he choose your family? It looped over and over. Louder each time. By the time I reached the house, I already knew. This wasn't something I could sit with. Not anymore. I stepped inside without thinking. Didn't take off my shoes. Didn't close the door properly. Just walked in. Fast. Straight down the hallway. "Mom." My voice cut through the silence. Too sharp. Too sudden. She appeared almost immediately. From the kitchen. Drying her hands. Normal. Too normal. "What's wrong?" she asked. That tone. Calm. Concerned. Unaware. And for a second, I hesitated. Because there it was again. That version of reality. The one where everything made sense. Where she didn't know. Where none of this touched her. But then, the letter in my hand. The man's voice in my head. The question. And just like that, the hesitation disappeared. We need to talk, I said. My voice was different now. Flat. Controlled. Not emotional. That made her pause. She saw it. Something in my face. Something off. What happened? She asked again. Slower this time. Careful. I stepped closer. Pulled the letter out. Held it up. Did you know about this? She frowned slightly. Confused. Or pretending. I don't. What is that? I watched her closely. Every movement. Every shift in her eyes. This was in her room, I said. Hidden. That word landed. Hidden. I saw it. Just a flicker. But it was there. Her expression tightened. Not much. But enough. I don't understand. Stop, I cut in. Sharper now. Just stop. The room went quiet. Completely. Because she heard it. Not just the words. The tone. I didn't wait. I unfolded the letter. Not fully. Just enough. And read the line out loud. I never wanted you to know the truth about your father. Silence. Heavy. Immediate. Her face changed. Not dramatically. Not in some obvious way. But the confusion. The confusion was gone. Replaced by something else. Something still. Something contained. My chest tightened. You knew, I said. Not a question. A statement. She didn't answer. Didn't deny it. Didn't confirm it. Just stood there. And that was worse. Say something, I pushed. My voice rising now. Because that silence. It felt familiar. Too familiar. Like I'd seen it before. From someone else. I don't know what you think you found, she started. But I cut her off again. No. I stepped closer. Don't do that. My hands were shaking again. But I didn't care. I just came from someone who knows him. That hit. I saw it. Clear. Her posture shifted. Just slightly. Who? She asked. Too quickly. Too focused. Not confused. Not surprised. Concerned. My stomach dropped. You know who? I said quietly. Her eyes locked on mine. And for the first time, I saw it. Not fear. Not exactly. Recognition. The same look. The same flicker. Just like him. My chest tightened hard. You knew, I repeated. This time softer. But heavier. She looked away. Just for a second. That was enough. That was all I needed. How long? I asked. No answer. How long have you known? Still nothing. My voice cracked. Was it before me? That landed. Hard. Because this time. She reacted. Her head snapped back toward me. Don't, she said quickly. Too quickly. Too defensive. But it was too late. Because the question. It was already out there. Already real. Was it? I pushed. My chest rising faster now. Did you know before I was even born? I said don't, she repeated. But her voice. Her voice wasn't strong. It wasn't firm. It was breaking. And that confirmed it. Everything. I stepped back slowly. Like the floor beneath me wasn't steady anymore. This wasn't just her, I said. More to myself than to her. This wasn't just her keeping quiet. She closed her eyes briefly. And that small movement. It felt louder than anything she could have said. You both knew, I whispered. The words tasted bitter. Heavy. Unavoidable. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Just a fraction. But enough. I didn't know everything, she said finally. Quiet. Careful. Measured. I let out a hollow laugh. Of course you didn't. Because that's how this works, right? No one knows everything. Everyone just knows enough to stay quiet. What did you know? I asked. She hesitated. Again. Always that hesitation. That pause. Before the truth. Answer me, I said. She looked at me. Really looked. And this time, There was no pretending left. He wasn't who he said he was, she said. Flat. Simple. Like that was supposed to be enough. It wasn't. That's it? I snapped. That's all you knew? Her jaw tightened. No, she said quietly. My chest dropped. Then what? Another pause. Short. Heavy. Then. He came here for a reason. The words hit slow. But hard. For what reason? I asked. But she didn't answer directly. Of course she didn't. Instead, she said something worse. He didn't choose us randomly. My breath caught. Because that was the same question. The same direction. The same truth. My hands tightened into fists. Then why? I demanded. Why us? She looked at me. Long. Like she was deciding whether to say it. Or bury it one more time. Then. She spoke. And everything shifted again. Because of me. Silence. Absolute. My mind went blank. What? I whispered. But the word barely formed. She didn't look away this time. Didn't hesitate. Didn't soften it. He came because of me. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. Not confusion. Not disbelief. Something worse. Because now. This wasn't just about him. This wasn't just about the past. This was about her. Her choices. Her connection to whatever he was running from. I took a slow step back. The room felt different again. Smaller. Colder. What does that mean? I asked. But my voice didn't sound like mine anymore. She inhaled slowly. Like she was about to say something that couldn't be taken back. And I knew. Whatever came next. This wasn't going to fix anything. It was going to break it further. I didn't sit down. Didn't lean on anything. Because something told me if I did I might not get back up. I just stood there staring at her. Waiting. Because whatever she was about to say. It was already too much. He came because of me. The words replayed in my head. Over and over. Each time landing harder. He knew me before you were born, she said. My chest tightened immediately. Before. Again. Everything was happening before. Before me. Before the life I understood. How? I asked. But the question felt weak. Small. Because the real question, the one I didn't want to ask, was already there. She exhaled slowly. Like she'd been holding this in for years. Maybe she had. We met a long time ago, she said. Careful. Measured. Like she was choosing each word. Where? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes dropped. Just for a second. But that was enough. Where? I repeated. Sharper now. Because that hesitation. It was starting to feel like a pattern. A different city, she said finally. Too vague. Too controlled. That doesn't mean anything, I snapped. Where? Another pause. Then. Before I met your father. My stomach dropped. No, that wasn't. That doesn't make sense, I said quickly. Because it didn't. It couldn't. My father. The man I knew. He was always there. Always part of the story. Always at the beginning. But now. Now there was something before him. Someone before him. And it didn't fit. It didn't line up. You're not telling me everything, I said. My voice lower now. More focused. She looked at me again. And this time, there was no softness left. Just truth. I didn't know who he really was when we met, she said. The words hit hard. I thought he was just passing through. Passing through. That sounded temporary. Harmless. But everything about this wasn't harmless. How long? I asked. Not long, she said. Too quickly. Like she didn't want to stay there. Like she didn't want to remember. But I didn't let it go. What happened? I pushed. Her jaw tightened. I moved on, she said. Simple. Clean. Final. But I could hear it. The gap. The missing part. You moved on? I repeated. And he just disappeared? She didn't answer. Not directly. Instead. He showed up again later, she said. Later. My chest tightened again. When? I asked. And this time, I needed the answer. Because everything was starting to blur. Everything was starting to overlap. And I needed something solid. Something real. She looked at me. Long. And then she said it. After I was already married. Everything stopped. The room. The air. My thoughts. All of it. After what? But I heard it. I heard it clearly. I just didn't want to accept it. He came back after I married your father. My chest felt like it collapsed inward. No. That didn't. That couldn't. You're lying, I said immediately. Because that was easier. That was safer. But she didn't react. Didn't argue. Didn't defend herself. She just stood there. And that made it worse. Because it meant she wasn't unsure. She wasn't confused. She was certain. My breathing started to change. Faster now. Shallower. When? I asked again. But this time, the question carried something else. Fear. Real fear. She hesitated. Just once. Then, before you were born. The world tilted. Not physically, but it felt like it. Like everything shifted just slightly off-center. Enough to feel it. Enough to know something was wrong. I stepped back. Slow. Unsteady. No. The word came out on its own. Automatic. Because my brain was trying to hold on to something. Anything. A timeline. A structure. A version of events that made sense. But it wasn't there anymore. It was gone. Replaced. Rewritten. Say it clearly, I said. My voice barely steady now. Say what you're saying. She looked at me. And this time, there was no hesitation. No protection. No softening. Just truth. You don't know who your father is. Silence. Absolute. Total. The kind that doesn't just fill a room. It crushes it. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't think. Because there was nothing left to think. Nothing left to process. Just that sentence. Over and over. You don't know who your father is. I shook my head slowly. No. But the denial. It felt empty. Pointless. Because something inside me. Something deep. Already knew. Already connected it. The letter. The man. The questions. Everything. All leading here. I looked at her. Really looked. Like I was seeing her for the first time. And suddenly, she wasn't just my mother. She was part of this. Part of the secret. Part of the lie. How long? I whispered. But I couldn't even finish it. Because what was the question? How long did she know? How long did she lie? How long was my life built on something that wasn't true? I let out a broken breath. Is he even? I stopped. Because I couldn't say it. I couldn't ask it. But she answered anyway. Before I finished. I don't know. That hit harder than anything else. Not certainty. Not confession. Uncertainty. I don't know. Which meant there was no answer. No clean truth. No clear line. Just doubt. Permanent. Unavoidable. I staggered back another step. My hand hitting the wall behind me. Because suddenly, I didn't know where I stood. Not just physically. Everything. Who I was. Where I came from. What was real. What wasn't. All of it. Unstable. Shifting. Gone. I looked down at my hands. Like they might look different. Like something about me might have changed. But they didn't. Everything looked the same. That was the worst part. Because nothing had changed. And everything had. I swallowed hard. My voice barely a whisper. Then what am I supposed to do with that? She didn't answer. Of course she didn't. Because there was no answer. Not one that fixed anything. Not one that made it better. I looked back at her. And for the first time, I didn't see safety. I didn't see certainty. I saw someone who had been carrying this for years. And chose, every single day, to keep it buried. And now, it wasn't buried anymore. Now it was mine. The room didn't feel real anymore. Not in the way it used to. It looked the same. Everything was still in its place. But something underneath it, something invisible, had shifted too far to ignore. You don't know who your father is. The words wouldn't leave. They just kept circling. Louder. Sharper. Heavier every time. I stared at her. Waiting. Because there had to be more. There had to be something that made this make sense. You said he came back, I said slowly. Each word deliberate. Controlled. Why? She didn't answer right away. Of course she didn't. She never did. Always that pause. That gap. That space where the truth lived, just out of reach. Answer me, I said. Not louder. Just harder. She exhaled. Long. Like whatever she was about to say. It had been sitting there for years. Waiting. He didn't come back for me. The sentence landed wrong. Twisted. My brow tightened. Then why did he come back? A beat. Then. He came because he needed something. My chest tightened. Needed what? What? I asked. But my voice didn't carry much weight anymore. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't going to be simple. Her eyes met mine. And for the first time, there was no control in them. No structure. Just something raw. Something close to regret. He was being followed. The words hit like ice. Cold. Immediate. What do you mean followed? But she didn't soften it. Didn't explain it away. He said they were looking for him, she continued. They knew what he'd done. My stomach dropped. There it was. Not hints. Not fragments. Something real. Something solid. What did he do? I asked. But my voice. It wasn't steady anymore. It was breaking. She hesitated. Just once. Then. He wouldn't tell me everything. Of course he didn't. Of course he kept it incomplete. Because that's what this whole thing was. Pieces. Fragments. Never the full truth. But I knew enough, she added quietly. My chest tightened again. Enough for what? She swallowed. And I saw it. That shift. That moment where she stopped protecting me. And started telling the truth. Enough to know he wasn't just running, she said. A pause. Heavy. Deliberate. He was hiding from what he'd already done. The words settled deep. Uncomfortable. Permanent. I shook my head. No, that's too vague. But even as I said it, I felt it. That weight. That pressure building again. What did he do? I pushed. This time louder. Because I needed it clear. I needed it defined. I needed something I could hold on to. She looked at me. And this time, she didn't hesitate. He hurt people. Silence. The kind that doesn't echo. It absorbs. It takes everything with it. I didn't react. Not immediately. Because my brain. It rejected it. Instantly. No, I said. Flat. Automatic. He wouldn't. But the words died halfway out. Because I didn't know that. Not anymore. Not after everything else. He didn't tell me everything, she repeated. But I saw enough. My chest tightened painfully. What did you see? My voice was barely there now. She looked away. Just for a second. But it was enough to tell me. Whatever it was. It stayed with her. I saw what he was capable of, she said. Quiet. Controlled. But heavy. He wasn't just running from them. A pause. Then. They were running from him too. That changed everything. Because now. This wasn't just fear. This wasn't just escape. This was something else. Something darker. Something active. I felt it in my chest. Like something tightening around my ribs. You're saying he was dangerous, I said. But even that felt too small. Too simple. She didn't answer directly. She didn't need to. Because her silence. It confirmed it. I took a step back. My legs unsteady now. Because suddenly, every memory I had of him, it didn't feel safe anymore. It felt fragile. Like it could break if I looked at it too closely. He stayed, I said. More to myself than to her. He stayed with us. Why? Why would someone like that stay? The question hit again. That same one. Louder now. Clearer. Why did he choose your family? I looked back at her. Why didn't you leave? I asked. Because that didn't make sense. If she knew. If she saw it. Why stay? Her expression shifted. Subtle. But real. I tried, she said. The words came out quickly, like she didn't want to sit with them. I told him to go. A pause. Then, he said he would. My chest tightened again. But he didn't, I said. She shook her head. No. Of course he didn't. Because people like that, they don't just leave. Not when there's something keeping them there. What was it? I asked. What kept him here? She didn't answer. Not immediately. But I saw it. That look. That hesitation. That shift. The same one from before. And suddenly, I knew. Before she even said it. My stomach dropped. No. But she said it anyway. He said you were the only thing that made him stay. Everything inside me stopped. Completely. The words didn't just land. They sank. Deep. Heavy. Permanent. What? My voice barely came out. Because that didn't make sense. Or maybe it did. In the worst possible way. He said you were his chance to start over, she continued. He said if he stayed, if he did it right. Her voice faltered slightly. He could be someone else. Someone else. The phrase echoed. Because that's exactly what he was. A different name. A different life. A different version. All built on something buried. Something hidden. Something still out there. I stepped back again. The wall behind me stopping me this time. Because I couldn't move any further. I didn't have anywhere to go. This isn't real, I whispered. But it was. Every part of it. Every piece. Every connection. All leading to the same place. The same truth. He didn't just lie about who he was. He rebuilt himself. From the ground up. And I was part of that. Not by choice. Not by design. But by consequence. I looked at her. Then down at my hands. Then back at her again. And for the first time, I didn't feel confusion. I didn't feel denial. I felt something else. Something heavier. Something sharper. Where is he? I asked. Because now, this wasn't about the past anymore. This wasn't about what he did. This was about what was still out there. What hadn't been answered. What hadn't been finished. She hesitated. Of course she did. But this time, I didn't wait. Where is he? I repeated. And this time, I wasn't asking. I was demanding. Because whatever he left behind, whatever he tried to escape, whatever he tried to become, it all led back to one thing. Him. She didn't answer right away. Of course she didn't. But this time, the silence didn't feel like control. It felt like delay. Like she knew she couldn't hold it back anymore, just trying to slow it down. Where is he? I repeated. My voice steady now. Too steady. The kind of calm that comes after something breaks. She looked at me. Long. Careful. Then finally. He left years ago. The words landed flat. Empty. Where? I asked immediately. She shook her head. I don't know. I stared at her. Waiting. Because that wasn't enough. Not anymore. You expect me to believe that? I said. No anger. Just pressure. She didn't argue. Didn't defend it. He didn't tell me, she said. He just left. Just left. Like that. Like people like him ever leave things unfinished. No, I said quietly. That's not how this works. She didn't respond. But I could see it. That flicker again. That hesitation. And this time, I caught it. You do know, I said. Soft. Certain. Her eyes dropped. Just for a second. That was enough. Tell me, I said. No edge. No volume. Just wait. She exhaled slowly. Then walked past me. Into the other room. I didn't follow immediately. Because I already knew. Whatever she was about to bring back. It mattered. When she returned, there was something in her hand. Small. Worn. A piece of paper. Different from the letter. Older. Folded too many times. She held it out. But didn't let go right away. He gave me this before he left, she said. I looked down at it. Didn't take it yet. Why didn't you show me before? I asked. Her grip tightened slightly. Because if I did. A pause. You would have gone looking for him. She wasn't wrong. I would have. I still was. I took the paper from her hand. Slow. Careful. Like it might disappear if I moved too fast. I unfolded it. The creases were deep. Permanent. Just like everything else in this story. There wasn't much written. Just a place. An address. And one line underneath it. If it ever comes back, this is where it started. My chest tightened instantly. I looked up at her. What is it? She shook her head. I don't know. But her voice. Her voice wasn't convincing. Not anymore. Nothing was. I looked back down at the paper. The address. Burning into my mind. Because this was it. The last piece. The place everything connected to. I folded it again. Slower this time. More deliberate. Then slipped it into my pocket. You're going, she said. Not a question. I looked at her. And for the first time, there was no hesitation. No doubt. Yes. Her expression shifted. Not surprise. Not resistance. Something else. Something closer to acceptance. I can't stop you, she said. No, I replied. You can't. Silence settled again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It wasn't suffocating. It was final. Because we both knew. This was the point of no return. I turned toward the door. Didn't rush. Didn't hesitate. Just moved. Step by step. Until her voice stopped me. Wait. I paused. Didn't turn around immediately. Because part of me didn't want to hear anything else. Not now. Not when I was this close. But I stopped anyway. What? I said. She took a step closer. Close enough that I could feel her behind me. But I still didn't turn. Because something in her voice, something in the way she said it, told me this wasn't just another piece. This was something else. Whatever you think you're going to find, she said quietly. A pause. Then, it's not going to give you what you want. I let out a slow breath. Then what will it give me? Another pause. Longer this time. Heavier. And then, the truth he was trying to outrun. The word settled deep. Because that's what this had always been. Not just secrets. Not just lies. Something chasing him. Something he couldn't escape. And now, I was walking straight toward it. I turned slightly. Just enough to see her. Her expression wasn't afraid. It wasn't panicked. It was something worse. Certain. You don't have to do this, she added. Quiet. Almost a whisper. I held her gaze for a second. Then shook my head. Yes, I said. I do. Because at this point, there was nothing left to protect. Nothing left to preserve. Just truth. Raw. Unfiltered. Waiting. I opened the door. Stepped outside. And this time, the silence didn't follow me. Because now, I wasn't walking away from it. I was walking straight into it. The drive felt different this time. Not rushed. Not scattered. Focused. Like every thought had narrowed into a single line. The address. That piece of paper sat in my pocket, heavier than anything I'd carried before. I didn't take it out again. Didn't need to. It was already there. Burned into my mind. Every turn. Every mile. Every second pulling me closer to something that didn't feel like an answer. But didn't feel like a question anymore either. I pulled over once. Engine still running. Hands on the wheel. Just sitting there. Because something unexpected started happening. Not panic. Not fear. Something else. Memories. But not the way they came before. Not fragmented. Not breaking apart. This time, they started lining up. Rearranging. Shifting into something that made sense. And that scared me more than anything. I closed my eyes. And he was there again. Not as a mystery. Not as a stranger. As my father. Standing in the garage. Hands covered in grease. Fixing something I didn't understand. I was younger. Watching him. Why do you always fix things yourself? I asked. He glanced at me. Then back at what he was working on. Because if you don't understand how something works. He paused. Tightened something. You don't know when it's broken. At the time, it sounded like nothing. Just something adults say. But now, Now it hit differently. Because he wasn't talking about the car. He never was. I opened my eyes slowly. My grip on the wheel tightened. That wasn't random, I whispered. None of it was. Not the pauses. Not the deflections. Not the way he answered questions without actually answering them. It wasn't distance. It wasn't detachment. It was control. Careful. Deliberate. I leaned back in the seat. Exhaled slowly. Because for the first time, I wasn't just questioning him. I was understanding him. And that was worse. Because it didn't make him innocent. It made him intentional. I saw another moment. Clear. Sharp. We were walking somewhere. Doesn't matter where. What mattered was what he said. People don't change, I told him. I don't even remember why. Just something I believed back then. He smiled slightly. Not amused. Not dismissive. Just knowing. They do, he said. But not the way you think. I remember frowning. What does that mean? He didn't answer. Just kept walking. And I let it go. I always let it go. I pressed my fingers against my eyes. Why didn't I see it? I muttered. But the answer came immediately. Because there was nothing to see. Not on the surface. He didn't act like someone hiding something. He acted like someone who had already buried it. Deep. Clean. Permanent. Or at least. That's what he thought. I reached into my pocket. Pulled out the paper. Unfolded it again. The address stared back at me. Cold. Neutral. Unemotional. Unlike everything else. If it ever comes back, this is where it started. It. Not him. Not them. It. Something bigger. Something undefined. And suddenly, I realized something that shifted everything again. He wasn't just running from people. He was running from consequences. From something he did. Something that didn't disappear just because he changed his name. Changed his life. Changed us. I swallowed hard. Because now, the question wasn't just what did he do. It was, did he stop? The thought hit sharp. Uncomfortable. Because everything I'd built in my head, every version of him, it depended on that answer. I leaned forward slightly, resting my forehead against the steering wheel. Because this was the part no one prepares you for. It's easy to hate someone. Easy to reject them. Easy to say, he lied. He wasn't who I thought. But this was harder. Because he was my father. That part didn't disappear. Didn't vanish just because the truth came out. Every memory. Every lesson. Every moment. Still real. Still mine. And that created something worse than anger. Conflict. Because now I had two versions of him. The man who raised me. And the man who existed before that. And I didn't know which one was real. Or if both were. I let out a slow breath. Then said it out loud. Quiet. Clear. You weren't pretending. The realization settled in. Heavy. Permanent. You were trying. That hit deeper than anything else. Because if that was true, if he really believed he could become someone else, then this wasn't just deception. It was desperation. A second chance. Built on something broken. Something unfinished. I looked down at my hands again. Not expecting them to change. But needing to check anyway. Because now, I didn't just question him. I questioned what came from him. What I carried. What I inherited. And that thought stayed. It didn't fade. Didn't soften. It just sat there. Waiting. I lifted my head. Looked back at the road. At the direction I was heading. And for the first time, I wasn't just chasing answers. I was preparing for them. Because whatever I found at that address, it wasn't going to give me a clean version of the truth. It was going to give me the full one. Messy. Unfinished. Real. I started the car again. Pulled back onto the road. And this time, I didn't hesitate. Because I already knew. Whatever he was before. Whatever he tried to leave behind. Whatever followed him all the way into my life. It didn't end with him. And if that was true, then I wasn't just finding his past. I was walking into something that might still be alive. I didn't slow down when I reached it. Didn't circle the block. Didn't sit in the car trying to build courage. Because at this point, Courage had nothing to do with it. This wasn't about bravery. It was about inevitability. The place stood exactly where the paper said it would. Still, unremarkable, almost forgettable, like it had learned how to exist without being noticed. I stepped out of the car, closed the door behind me, and for a second, I just stood there, looking at it, because something inside me understood. This wasn't just a location. This was a line. And once I crossed it, there was no version of me waiting on the other side. Just whatever I became after. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the paper one last time, checked the address. Not because I doubted it. Because I needed that final confirmation. That this was real. That I wasn't imagining it. That everything that led here actually happened. I folded it again, carefully, then slipped it back into my pocket. No hesitation this time. I walked forward, each step steady, controlled. Because now, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was choosing. The door was already slightly open. Just enough to notice. Not enough to feel inviting. I stopped right in front of it. My hand hovered for a second. Not from fear. From awareness. Because this moment, was the last clean one I'd have. Before everything shifted completely. I pushed the door open. Slow. Deliberate. It didn't creak. Didn't resist. It just moved. Like it had been waiting. Inside. Silence. But not empty. Not abandoned. This was different. Occupied. Used. Still. I stepped in. Let the door close behind me. And just like that, the outside disappeared. No noise. No distraction. Just me. And whatever this place held. Hello? I called out. My voice echoed slightly. But not far. Like the walls absorbed most of it. No response. Of course not. Nothing in this story had been easy. Why would this be? I moved forward. Slow steps. Eyes scanning everything. Not looking for something specific. Just observing. Because I'd learned something. Details matter. The smallest ones. The ones you ignore at first. They're usually the ones that stay. A chair. Out of place. A table. Scratches along the surface. Not random. Repeated. Intentional. My chest tightened slightly. Because this place. It didn't feel abandoned. It felt paused. Like something had been happening here. And stopped suddenly. I stepped deeper inside. Further from the door. Further from anything familiar. And that's when I heard it. A sound. Subtle. Behind me. I turned instantly. Too fast. Heart kicking up again. But there was nothing there. Just the door. Closed. Still. I exhaled slowly. Don't start, I muttered. But my body wasn't relaxed. It was alert. Ready. Because something about this place. It didn't feel safe. Not in a physical way. In a different way. Like I wasn't supposed to understand it. Like I wasn't supposed to be here. And yet, I was. Because I chose to be. I moved again. Toward the back. Where the space narrowed. Where the air felt heavier. And then, I saw it. A wall. Covered. Not with decoration. Not with anything normal. With pieces. Paper. Photos. Names. Lines connecting them. Messy. Layered. Overlapping. Like someone had been trying to build something. Or understand something. My chest tightened hard. Because I didn't need to read it. Not yet. I already knew. This wasn't random. This wasn't scattered. This was organized chaos. The kind that only makes sense to the person who built it. I stepped closer. Slow. Careful. Because something told me. Once I looked closely. There was no looking away. My eyes moved across it. Taking it in. Piece by piece. And then, they stopped. Because there it was. Not hidden. Not buried. Placed. Right in the center. A photo. Him. Not the version I knew. Not the man from my memories. Younger. Sharper. Different. But still. Him. My chest tightened instantly. Because now. There was no separation. No doubt. No distance between the past and the present. It was the same person. The same face. The same eyes. And right next to it, another photo. Someone else. The man I met. The one who told me I shouldn't come. Connected. Linked. Part of the same thing. My hand lifted slightly, almost reaching for it. But I stopped. Because something else caught my eye. A name. Written underneath. Not the one I knew. A different one. My stomach dropped. Because now, it wasn't just confirmed. It was visible. Real. Permanent. And just below that, one word. Circled. Repeated. Over and over. Like whoever wrote it couldn't let it go. Return. My chest tightened again. Return. Not escape. Not disappear. Return. Which meant this wasn't finished. Whatever he ran from, whatever he tried to leave behind, it didn't end. It was waiting. I took a slow step back, my breathing uneven now. Because the realization, it wasn't subtle. It wasn't gradual. It hit all at once. This wasn't just about his past. This wasn't just about what he did. This was about something that was still moving. Still active. Still unresolved. And I had just walked straight into it. I looked at the wall again. At the connections. At the names. At the patterns. And then I said it. Quiet. Clear. Unavoidable. I'm already part of this. Because I was. Whether I wanted to be or not. Whether I chose it or not. It had already reached me. Through him. Through her. Through everything that led here. And now, the only thing left was deciding what I was going to do about it. I didn't touch anything. Not the photos. Not the papers. Not even the wall. Because this wasn't something I could interact with like that. This wasn't evidence. It was a mirror. And I wasn't ready to see all of it yet. I stood there, breathing slow, letting it settle. Because for the first time since this started, nothing new was being added. No new names. No new questions. Just what was already here. Clear. Connected. Unavoidable. I looked at his face again. That version of him. Not the one I knew. Not the one who stood in doorways or fixed things in the garage. This one was different. Focused. Intentional. Like he belonged in this world. Like this. All of this wasn't something he ran from. It was something he understood. And that's when it hit me. Not all at once. But steady. Certain. He didn't just escape this. He left it unfinished. The word on the wall came back. Return. Not a threat. Not a warning. A pattern. Something that happens whether you want it to or not. I stepped closer this time. Just enough to see the details. The lines connecting everything. The way names overlapped. Crossed paths. Ended. Started again. And then, I saw it. Not in the center. Not obvious. But there. Subtle. Intentional. My name. My chest tightened instantly. Not circled. Not highlighted. Just placed. Like a point on a map. Connected to him. Connected to her. Connected to everything else. I let out a slow breath. Because that was the final confirmation. This wasn't just his story. It wasn't even just hers. It had already become mine. I stepped back again. Further this time. Because now, I wasn't looking for answers. I had them. Not clean. Not complete. But enough. Enough to understand what this was. Enough to understand what it meant. And more importantly, what it didn't. This wasn't redemption. It wasn't closure. It wasn't something that ends neatly once you uncover it. This was something that continues. Something that shifts. Moves. Adapts. And if you're part of it, you don't just walk away. You either ignore it, or you face it. I closed my eyes for a second. And he was there again. Not the version from the wall. Not the one from the letter. The one I knew. Standing in the kitchen. Late at night. Quiet. Watching. Not distant. Not empty. Just tired. And for the first time, I didn't see confusion in that memory. I saw weight. The kind you carry when you're holding something no one else can see. You were trying, I said quietly. The words felt strange. But not wrong. Because now, I understood something I didn't before. He didn't come into my life to destroy it. He came into it to escape his own. And somewhere along the way, he stayed. Not because he had to. Because he chose to. That didn't erase what he did. Didn't change what he was. But it changed something else. The way I saw him. Not as a lie. Not as a stranger. As someone who tried to become something different. And didn't fully succeed. I opened my eyes again. Looked back at the wall. At the patterns. At the word. Return. And I made the connection. Clear. Final. He didn't finish this. Which meant it was always going to come back. Not necessarily for him. But for whoever was connected to it. Whoever was part of it. Whoever was still here. Me. I exhaled slowly. The decision forming before I even said it. Because at this point, there were only two options. Pretend I never saw this. Walk away. Let it sit. Let it stay buried. Or accept it. Understand it. Step into it. Not because I wanted to. Because I already had. I looked down at my name one more time. Then back at everything else. And I said it. Quiet. But certain. This ends with me. Not as a promise. Not as a threat. As a choice. The first real one I'd made since this started. I turned. Walked back toward the door. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. Because now, there was no confusion left. No hesitation. Just direction. I reached the door. Paused for a second. Not because I was unsure. Because I understood. Everything behind me. It didn't disappear when I left. It stayed. Waiting. Unfinished. But it didn't control me. Not unless I let it. I opened the door. Stepped outside. And this time, the air felt different. Not lighter. Not easier. Just real. Because now, I wasn't carrying questions anymore. I was carrying truth. And that's heavier. But it's also clear. I walked to the car. Got in. And for a moment, I just sat there. Hands resting on the wheel. Not moving. Not rushing. Because for the first time, I wasn't trying to outrun anything. I wasn't chasing anything either. I just was. And that was enough. I didn't go back inside. Not the house. Not the place. Not any of it. Because something in me understood. There's a difference between looking for answers and living with them. And I had already crossed that line. The road stretched out in front of me. Familiar. Ordinary. Exactly the same as it always was. But I wasn't. That part was undeniable now. Not in some dramatic way. Not like everything suddenly changed overnight. It was quieter than that. Deeper. Like something had settled into place that wasn't there before. Or maybe, something that was always there had finally surfaced. I kept driving. No destination. No rush. Just movement. Because standing still felt wrong now. Like if I stopped, everything I just understood might catch up all at once. And I wasn't interested in being overwhelmed anymore. I'd had enough of that. My hand stayed steady on the wheel. Eyes forward. But my mind wasn't scattered anymore. For the first time since this started, it was clear. Not empty. Not peaceful. Just clear. I thought about him again. Of course I did. That wasn't going to stop. Not now. Not ever. But it was different this time. I wasn't trying to figure him out. I wasn't trying to separate the versions. The man I knew. The man he was before. The things he did. The things he tried to leave behind. Because that separation, it didn't exist. Not really. It was all him. Every part. Every choice. Every mistake. Every attempt to be something else. And somehow, that made it easier. Not better. Just easier. Because now I wasn't holding two conflicting truths. I was holding one complicated one. And that I could carry. I stopped at a red light. The kind you don't even notice most days. Just part of the routine. But this time, I did notice. Everything. The stillness. The pause. The moment where nothing moves. And I realized something. This is where most people stay. Right here. They find something uncomfortable, something that shakes what they believe, and they stop. They don't go further. They don't question it. They don't follow it to the end. Because it's easier to sit in the pause than to see what's waiting on the other side. The light turned green. I didn't move immediately. Just sat there for a second longer. Because now, I understood why he ran. Why he buried it. Why he tried to become someone else. It wasn't just fear. It was weight. The kind that doesn't leave. The kind that follows you. Even when you think you've escaped. I pressed the gas. Moved forward. Because I wasn't him. That was the difference. Not better. Not worse. Just different. He ran. I didn't. And that choice. That was mine. I drove for a while longer. Until the road opened up. Less traffic. More space. More quiet. And that's when the final thought settled in. Not loud. Not sudden. Just there. He didn't tell me the truth. She didn't tell me the truth. No one did. They managed it. Controlled it. Buried it. Protected it. For their own reasons. Some of them justified. Some of them not. But in the end, it didn't matter. Because the truth doesn't disappear. It waits. It sits. It builds. Until someone finds it. And then, it doesn't ask permission. It doesn't care if you're ready. It just becomes yours. I tightened my grip on the wheel slightly. Because that part was unavoidable. I didn't choose to find it. But I chose what to do with it. And that's where everything changes. I slowed the car. Pulled over to the side of the road. Engine still running. Silence settling in again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It wasn't suffocating. It was neutral. Like a blank space. Waiting. I reached into my pocket. Pulled out the letter. Unfolded it one last time. Not to read it again. I didn't need to. I already knew every word. Every line. Every warning. I just looked at it. At the paper. At the weight it carried. And then, I folded it back. Carefully. Deliberately. Like I understood it now. Not just what it said. But what it meant. I placed it back in my pocket. Not hidden. Not buried. Just kept. Because that's what it was now. Not a secret. Not a threat. A part of me. Whether I liked it or not. I leaned back in the seat. Looked out at the road ahead. And for a moment, I let everything settle. No resistance. No denial. No need to figure anything else out. Just acceptance. Not peace. Not closure. Something more honest than that. And then, I said it. Quiet. Clear. Unavoidable. The truth doesn't set you free. I paused. Because now, I knew how it ended. It just makes sure you never live the same way again. I started the car again. Pulled back onto the road. And this time, I didn't look back. Because there was nothing left behind. Everything that mattered came with me.